Mr. Connor Harbison. Can I have you on the stage, Mr. Connor? Also a recipient of our prestigious award yesterday. Thank you so much. It's over to you, Connor.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you all so much for being here. I can't think of someone better to have gone after than Felix. That was a really great talk, and I think our topics will pair really well together. All right. So I am the founder of Atlas Urban Farms. We're a Boston-based startup using hydroponics, IoT, and machine learning to optimize crops. We have been in business about 3 years. Before that, I got an MBA, and I started 2 other companies in the US, neither of which were in this space. So this has been something of an adventure, but food is something that brings everyone together. And we really have been driven by a desire to bring healthy, fresh, accessible, affordable, sustainable food to everybody. And I think that we have the tools. It's just a matter of getting the right technology in the right hands. And I think that's really been a theme yesterday and today with some of the talks. Excuse me. We envision a future where cities go from gray to green, where everybody can access food at an arm's reach away. Cities are more beautiful, and we as people are healthier. So, a brief background on my company and my work. As I said, we've been in business about 3 years. We have developed a small modular device, which you can see behind me. We call it the mini unit. You can think of it like a 3D printer for food. It can create a small amount of totally custom food. And what I mean by that is using hydroponics and IoT, that has 60 billion different growing combinations. That's 60, lots more zeros. And by building this and putting it in the hands of chefs and food researchers and educators all across the United States, we found them growing just amazing things. Starting with the same seed stocks, they'd come up with different flavors, different growth rates, different, sometimes even nutritional content. And we started to understand, I think, that we have something that goes beyond just a hardware product, which is what brings us to where we are today. We have been very fortunate in the last few years working with a number of university partners across the US, a lot of nonprofits, government organizations. This is actually my first time bringing this show on the road, so to speak, internationally. And just from the conversations we were having yesterday, I think we're going to have a lot of really good partners, a lot of good conversations to come. But we're always looking to start new conversations. So if any of what I say is interesting, please reach out. My contact info is also at the bottom of the screen, so please feel free to ping me. So the problem that we've come upon over the last 50 to 70 years is that our food has been losing nutrition. Part of that is due to soil erosion, part of that is due to climate change, part of that is due to big agriculture just pushing and pushing and pushing. And some nutrients have increased. You can see on this chart, which I took from a academic study, that some nutrients like vitamin A have actually increased. But across a broad range of crops, this is just vegetables, it's similar for fruits, the nutritional content and nutritional density has lessened over the last few decades, which is worse for all of us. We're eating food that is not nourishing us. As an industry, we're growing more and more that's giving us less and less, and climate change is just going to make that worse. So I'm a strong believer that vertical farming has a role to play in getting us away from this paradigm where it's all about yield. We just have to grow as much as we can, as quickly as we can. I think there's still a place for that. I think there's still a place for traditional agriculture. But I think some of these new technologies that we've heard yesterday and today, and we're going to continue speaking about, have a role to play in this space. So it's not about replacement, it's about what is the right tool for the right place at the right time. So our experience, and this is just with educators and researchers and on a small scale, we've grown Genovese basil, which did some traveling, so it's not as pristine as I would like it, but with 95%, 96% less water, 99% less land, less energy, zero pesticides, fewer fertilizer inputs, and we have achieved crops that are about 40% higher in nutritional content. All of this was not in some special facility. It was in an environment that was controlled, but just as controlled as the room we are in today. And I think that's been a big unlock for us, that we can go into these spaces that are controlled for humans, but they're not controlled to the degree that plants are, and we can optimize them to get the most out of what you want. So I've spoken a few times about vertical farming. We primarily do hydroponic vertical farming. We don't work with soil, and this method is a way to get plants to grow faster, to be more efficient, and I think that this technology has a role to play. As I said, there have been some speed bumps in the industry if you follow the news, but I think the technology as it is has a lot of promise, and it's been really great to be here and speaking with everybody, hear how things are done in some other places in the world. I know in the US we can sometimes be a little obsessed with ourselves, so it's really nice to get out and learn from everyone else. But this method, I think, has a lot of promise. The upfront costs, the CapEx, can be daunting, and the electricity costs can be a challenge, but I think that with some of the optimization, some of the digital twins, and other technologies that are emerging, we will be able to overcome that. So, the main takeaway that we had from all of that work with the mini units, with these chefs growing different crops and having different outcomes and flavors and different things like that, we started to see quite a bit of data, and we built in a lot of controls, a lot of sensors, because people ask me, oh, Atlas Urban Farms, where is it located? And I say, well, we're headquartered in Boston, but the farm itself is distributed. You know, we have a little bit here and a little bit there with all of our customers all over the country. And to get meaningful results from them, we put a lot of technology in there. Every single one of our units connects to the internet. It's Bluetooth enabled, so that we can learn and continue making it better. And from that, we started gathering quite a bit of data. As Felix so well put it, there's a lot you can do with that. And over the summer, we began to say, what if we focused on that instead of building a hardware product? I don't know how many of you have experience with hardware and manufacturing. The saying hardware is hard, it's a saying for a reason. So we started playing around. You know, we're a small, scrappy startup team. Just let's see what happens. This is a chart from one of our first tests. Just trying to predict, you know, can we predict growth rate and yield? And I believe this was the second model we did. The first had an average error of 37%, and we tweaked it and got it down to 4%. So very precise. And we figured out, okay, we kind of have something here. So just modeling yield and growth rate, that's fine. We think that's cool, but I think there needs to be something more. And going back to those nutritional shortfalls, we started looking, what else can we do? What else can we track? What other metrics can we measure so that we can create value for our customers, for growers, and ultimately for people consuming this food? So we started testing quite a bit. We tested different effects on growth rate, as you can see on my right, your left. We started testing different temperatures, different levels of nutrition, different pH, and Felix put it very well. You know, if you have a controlled environment and have one temperature all the time, you're not going to learn very much. And that's where our business model came in handy. You have all of these chefs, all of these researchers in different places doing different things, and we started gathering some really crazy outcomes. In one case, we had somebody grow mint that came out bone white, the same color as these tabletops, and it still had a ton of flavor. And we had folks grow basil leaves larger than your hand, and we have experience with about 100 different crops doing those different experiments. We also started looking at nutritional outcomes measured through BRIX, B-R-I-X, which is a very simple way to measure it. It's just a measure of the dissolved sugars, but it is used as a quick method of gauging the relative level of nutrition. And that is what you see on your right, sort of the effect of nutritional, the electrical conductivity in the reservoir and the pH, and the outcomes in terms of nutritional level of the crops. And you can see there's starting to be clustering there. And the goal of all of this is not to say there's one best way to grow basil or mint or tomatoes or lettuce or eventually staple crops. It's to say, you as a grower, and especially the smallholders we've been speaking about, you know your customers best, you know what your customers want, and you should be able to tailor that growth to what they want, to the conditions around you. If you have very low rainfall or salty soil or a place that doesn't get that much sun, you should be able to tweak that and get the produce that people will pay the most for. And that's really what all of this is about, is tuning that agriculture to what the customers will pay for, and giving you that control over the plants. So we are a very ambitious team. We're beginning to work with culinary schools in the United States to add in flavor. Flavor is a little bit more challenging because you either need a big, expensive piece of equipment, a gas chromatograph, or you need a human tongue. You need somebody to taste it and tell you what it tastes like, which can sometimes be, some people love cilantro and some people think it tastes like soap. So it can be really challenging to measure that. But we are beginning to correlate flavors to nutritional content and be able to go back and forth with that. So we do think we'll be able to offer that to growers, to be able to say, this produce has this flavor profile, it has this nutritional content, and that's something they can provide to their customers. More insight on that front. We have primarily been focused on herbs because the growth rate is quick, they're relatively expensive, short shelf life, and you don't need a lot of them. But we're beginning to look at small fruits like tomatoes and peppers, leafy greens, of course, and eventually we'd like to get to staple crops. We also have a new partner, still very early in the talks. We think we'll be able to do root vegetables, which, if you know anything about hydroponics, is pretty exciting. Happy to talk about that more afterwards if you'd like. But we have a lot on our plate. I'm actually going to be flying back to the United States tomorrow, and my team and I are going to be right back at it building new technology, because that's what we love to do. But the future is very bright. So if you leave today with anything, know that even though we've been growing food, we've been doing agriculture for thousands of years, and we've been in this modern agricultural paradigm for about 100 years, I think there's other ways we could approach it. And I think we have the tools to do that. And just from speaking to everybody here yesterday and today, I think the people that we need are here, and I think we are looking at a brighter, better future. I would be very happy to take any questions. And if you are interested in connecting with me, I think I'm standing in front of my contact info. But I will be around afterwards. Come grab lunch. I'm also on the directory. Find me on LinkedIn. And I think we have a few minutes left, so if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, I think that was a fantastic presentation. I was absorbed, and it's scary as well, the way you mentioned that nutrition is getting away from our food. And it is an eye-opener for someone like me who isn't involved with the industry per se. So thank you so much, Connor, for that. If there are any questions whatsoever, you can raise your hand. I can come to you and bring you the mic. Connor, can you help me with how much time do we have on the clock?
7 minutes.
Awesome.
I spoke a little quickly. I think I was...
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation, really nice, Connor. My question is, you tell that you can use less energy than your competitor. How much less, and how you compare this? how you use less energy?
That's based off of some public numbers from a couple companies in the United States. I think those were taken primarily from freight farms and maybe a couple others in sort of the device, someone who sells a discrete system. We are getting away from us selling the hardware. I think, when I first started this, I built a hydroponic system for my apartment, which is still growing, using $50 of materials. I think anybody can do that. And I think getting away from the high upfront costs that really hinder a lot of people in this industry are what we're trying to do. So our thinking is you can have any plumbing, any pumps, any lights, and we'll make it smarter and help you as a grower get to profitability quicker. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you very
you.
much.
You were one of those kids in the class that had a question about everything, right? I like that. I kind of enjoy that. Over to you.
Yeah, he's right, sorry. Just a question about, Susan Payne is my name, a question about the facility itself. Where are you located exactly? What is the size of the facility? And what is the cost of the CapEx in setting up that facility?
So to be clear, we do not have a growing facility. We have previously been building devices that go out, and they're scalable. So we've had ones as small as this piece of paper. Apologies, I'm not great with metric, but 9 inches across, 12 inches tall, 4 inches deep. We've had folks that have installed dozens of them. They were meant to be modular. We've had folks who have just one. And I think the idea being you can get it started for very small and scale up as you grow. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the vertical farming space. The really big companies, at least in the US, have not been doing well, exactly for the reason you said, the CapEx. So we've been really working to make that on-ramp easier so that you can start small and scale up as you make money, not say, okay, we need $200 million up front and we're not going to be profitable for years. So I hope that answers the question. But we are located in Boston.
All right, Connor. Here, straight ahead. We have another question here.
Hi, Connor. Okay, first of all, I agree with you. I've read a paper a couple of years ago that it's talking about the calorific deficit, because right now the companies are focusing on producing aesthetic vegetables, but that lack nutritional value. I've read about it, but my question for you is, what is your cost of production per pound in a facility that you intended to place, or your internal return rate? In case you plan to install a facility, what will be your cost per pound?
Unfortunately, I can't answer that. It's going to vary market to market what they can sell the produce for. It's going to vary what the cost of electricity is. It's going to vary what they want to optimize for. So we found that we could grow much faster and have higher yields, but the nutritional content and the flavor were much worse. So maybe that grower could sell at a market and have more, like physically more, but the quality, in my opinion, is going to be worse. I would prefer to buy the higher quality, but someone else might say, okay, you gave me, half the yield, but the flavor's better. So unfortunately, the answer is it depends. Yeah. Any final? I think we have.
Yeah, we can take one more question.
One more, yeah.
Getting there will finish the time for the question. But no, thank you for making it up to me. Thank you.
Hi, Connor. Great presentation.
Thank you.
I was wondering whether you have seen any recent challenges regarding fundraising, if you're working with any VCs, or how do you see the perception of VCs regarding plant factories, given the recent bad news in the industry? And do you think still plant factories would be something that VCs would be interested in and become profitable during the short-term horizon expectation coming from VCs or not?
That's a great question, and I could go on about that forever. VCs hate this. VCs want you to have the next ChatGPT, and they want it to go to $5 billion in revenue tomorrow. I think agriculture is a much slower game, but it's something that every single human needs forever. You know, if something bad happens and all our phones stop working, we'll survive. If we can't produce food, we're all going to die. It's as simple as that. I think that there are ways you can get into it, and I've spoken to a couple investors here who have really interesting specific theses. But in terms of the plant factories, as you said, I think that's something that we need to develop. I think it's still, in terms of an economically viable model, I think it's still some years off. I think that, to put it in terms of another technology, we're at the point where computers go from being warehouses to being, you know, a desktop. And we still have a long way to go. But the way that we get those profitable, economically stable plant factories in 10 or 20 years is by building it now. We don't wait until then for some magic to happen. Yeah, so thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be around. Would love to connect with everybody. Thank you.